Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark DeCourcy, the Senior Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and I lead the Chamber's Corporate Citizenship Center. I am so thrilled today to be joined by Catherine Hernandez-Blades. Catherine is the Senior Vice President and Chief ESG and Communications Officer for Aflac. In this role, she has a unique position to view holistically how Aflac takes all stakeholders into consideration when the company is faced with making major decisions. This macro perspective is more important than ever during a crisis like the pandemic. As the title of this session suggests, crisis has a way of revealing the character of a company. When the pandemic started, Aflac stepped up to address the needs of all of its stakeholders, specifically using ESG as a guide. This is a great example of crisis management done right. So let's get started. Catherine, Aflac has a long history of CSR engagement since the founding of the company in 1955. Your CEO, Dan Amos, famously said, "You take care of your people, and they'll take care of the company." How has this ethos come to fruition in the midst of the pandemic?
Great question, Mark, and thank you, and thank the U.S. Chamber so much for having Aflac and me here today. Yes, what you mentioned is a philosophy that has served us very well for the past 65 years. I think the way we handled COVID was a great example. We looked holistically at all of our stakeholders, particularly at the way the pandemic impacted them. And the way it impacts people is in three areas: their physical, mental, and financial health. So specifically focusing on your question, we looked at our W-2 employees first, obviously, and we were able, for their safety and security, to send 98% of our workforce home within a 2-week period with tech bundles and stipends for internet service providers. And then we looked at our sales force of 30,000 independent sales agents, and they work on commission only. So what we were able to do was not only provide them with information about the government assistance programs, we actually created our own no interest loan program for those 30,000 1099s to keep them whole through the pandemic. And of course, it was all done within IRS guidelines, but it was a wonderful way to take care of our people first.
Well, Catherine, that is really terrific. A no-interest loan program, 1099s, is really unique, and I have not heard of that before. Congratulations. Tell us how preparation for this was key to Aflac's response.
Well, that's a great point, Mark, because you cannot build culture in a crisis. You have to leverage what's already there. And remember, in a crisis, it's not an opportunity to build character, but in a crisis, character is certainly revealed. And just like a person is a blend of character and competence in the workplace, so must a company be in the marketplace.
So, Catherine, how have you grown your CSR during the pandemic?
Well, I would like to share with you the most rewarding project of my career. I'd love to introduce the audience to my special Aflac duck. Let's roll tape.
Oh, Catherine, that is truly a remarkable effort, and we love the video. Having been part of a family that has dealt with blood disorders, I know how much it means to have external support from all sources during that time. during those visits to the clinics and the hospital. So I think on behalf of every family who's experienced that, thank you. Kudos to you all and AFLAC for making such a major difference.
Well, thank you very much. Just on background, AFLAC has had a 25-year commitment to the eradication of pediatric cancer. And during that time, we donated almost $150 million to the research and treatment of childhood cancers. As a matter of fact, the AFLAC Cancer Center in Atlanta, Georgia, is the #1 provider of services to children with sickle cell in the country. And they are also a top 10 pediatric cancer hospital in the U.S. We're very, very proud of that.
And we're proud of you. Thank you again. Let's switch gears for a minute, Catherine. 2020 has revealed a number of racial inequities. Can you tell us more about AFLAC's Enhanced Equity Inclusion Program?
Absolutely. On a personal note, this issue of racial injustice is at the forefront of the American consciousness, frankly, in a way that it has never been in my lifetime. And we personally, I feel, have a moral imperative to get this right. After so many years of such deep tragedy, we cannot squander this opportunity. From AFLAC's perspective, gosh, we have been at the forefront of the civil rights movement from the 1960s through today, and we manifest our efforts and our commitment to social justice in a handful of ways. First is donations. The second is closing educational disparities. And what we mean by that is that we do that through our commitment to the United Negro College Fund, our donations there, our donations to HBCUs like Morehouse. I'm very, very proud of that. We also employ very fair labor practices among our internal employees, providing everyone with opportunity. And speaking of economic opportunity, we focus on creating that through our diverse supply chain efforts. And then finally, the fifth bucket, I'll call it, is our advocacy work. We work with the Congressional Black Caucus to ensure that true statutory reform happens. As a matter of fact, AFLAC was instrumental in getting the Georgia hate crimes bill passed. So it's not just what you say, it's what you do. And AFLAC really, really walks the talk.
Well, we couldn't agree more, Catherine, on that. And we've spent a large part of this conversation talking about the S in ESG. As Chief ESG Officer at AFLAC, can you spend a few minutes talking about the E in your environmental efforts, but also the G and how you focus on good corporate governance?
Absolutely. Well, it's about two things. You have to have programming so that you have something to disclose. The G is the easy part, right? We all know what an SEC violation looks like and how to avoid one. The E and the S are difficult because there really isn't a tremendous amount of standardization, some would say, if any, in regard to disclosures. So what we did when we embarked on this journey was we went to our three largest shareholders, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and we asked them, what makes sense for you? What are you looking for? And then we looked internally to determine what we could make work for us. And that resulted in reporting out the E in alignment with TCFD. As a matter of fact, we filed our first TCFD report this year, and SASB, which is the sustainability version of FASB, which most finance people are very, very familiar with. And then on the S side, for the last 6 years, we've actually been reporting out our CSR report in alignment with UN SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, and GRI, which is the Global Reporting Initiative. But it's not just about disclosures, it's also about how you make those disclosures. When you look at these aggregators like MSCI, Sustainalytics, ISS, they have AI trolling the internet in order to pick up the information that you've publicly disclosed. So we chose to disclose our information in the form of an internet hub, which allows our algorithms to readily talk to the AI of the aggregator. So when you look at our hub at esg.aflac.com, not only is it beautiful, and it really, really is, not only is the content outstanding, and it really, really is, but the beauty of the hub is what you don't see. It's that piece on the back end that, again, allows the AI ready access to our information. Is it perfect? Probably not, but is it smart? You bet.
Well, thank you, Catherine. And I would recommend for the viewers to go check out Aflac's ESG Hub. I think we can all learn a little bit from a leader in the space like Aflac. Catherine, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your unique perspective. The COVID-19 pandemic has challenged us all in immeasurable ways. And it's so insightful to hear how Aflac has so successfully tackled these issues.
Well, thank you, Mark. And again, thank you to the audience, and thank you to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine.